Recently I've been thinking my videos aren't very helpful, informative, or something that people would really come back to. I want to make videos that'll possibly even get a conversation started instead of just random shit posting. So I've been thinking, and I wondered, what if we had updates instead of sequels for games? So instead of releasing a new game to follow up with, what if there was no franchises? What if we just had different games that were all different and the developers just worked in them games? Updating them consistently with new content, and for me, this is ideal as I personally hate sequels. The only game in a franchise that I'm really looking forward to is The Elder Scrolls 6. But I do see one big problem with this is how are the developers going to make money if these updates are for free? Unless they start charging it as DLC, or I could see a situation like WoW in the way a lot of other MMOs used to charge for their game, and that's a monthly fee. Now I fucking hate monthly fees. I can't see the benefits to them though, like consistent free content updates. Like World of Warcraft is still one of the most popular MMOs in the world right now, and that game released back in 2004. But this just shows you that you don't need a new game released every 5 seconds. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. Speaking of Call of Duty, COD is probably one of the worst franchises for a quick money grab, and that's where they release game after game after game, because it does work. People will buy these games. Like even Infinite Warfare, probably the most hated COD, and Battlefield 1, probably the most hyped up Battlefield game, Infinite Warfare still somehow sold more than Battlefield 1. So I do understand why they do it, but it still doesn't mean I agree with it. Now I want to talk a bit about Warframe. This is one of the greatest examples of why working on a game and one game only is probably the best way to go. Developer Digital Extremes has poured their heart and soul into this game, and it really shows. It has went from an okay shitty game to one of the best looters on the market. And it kinda sucks I've never really been able to get into this game. I've put about 25-26 hours into it and it just hasn't hooked me. I know I'm still pretty early on into the game and this content is from when the game first released, so I think I just need to keep playing a bit more to see what happens. But even though I personally haven't got into the game too much, there's still a thriving community for the game. But not only that, the developers let you choose what you want to do and how you want to play, going as far to give the players freedom to be able to sell their in-game items for the premium currency Platinum. I have never seen any other game developer do this, and this is awesome. I love it. Okay, now I know this obviously isn't to do with if a game is part of a franchise, but I really just want to praise Digital Extremes for what they're doing. When I think of a game being supported for the long run, Overwatch immediately pops into my head. I think this is one of the first games I've experienced doing something like this, and I love it. The idea of free maps, DLC, and heroes was amazing, especially since around the time the only game I was really playing was Call of Duty. But of course, video games take money to make. The developers can't just hand out free content if they're not making money back from that content. So how do games like Overwatch and Warframe make money then? Microtransactions, or having some sort of paid content within the game. In the case of Overwatch, they have loot boxes that are luckily enough cosmetic only, offering things like skins and emotes. Now when it comes to Warframe, you can buy a premium currency called Platinum, which can pretty much buy anything in the game. But considering the main part of the game is PvE, and the fun for a lot of people is grinding for new weapons and Warframes, I don't particularly think this is pay to win, but that's just my opinion. And as I said earlier, you can do this without spending a single dime by selling your items to other players, and I do believe there's other ways to earn currency within the game, but I just don't know any. Just for anyone looking to sell your items, go to Warframe Market. It's so much better than the stupid in-game chat, and you can actually see what you're buying or selling. Now both these games are multiplayer, so that got me thinking, how would single player games work in this scenario? I think this is one situation where maybe releasing sequels would actually be better. Now of course you could release a single player focused game and just keep updating it, but how are the developers going to make money if they're just releasing all this content within free updates? With single player games, it's a little hard to do this besides just releasing DLC, and that's what a lot of games do already. But I don't think you could just drop loot boxes into the mix. Well, actually I guess you could have skins or something in there. And there actually is one single player game that does this, Need for Speed Payback. They have loot boxes within the game which you can get these cards out of, and these cards level up your car. But if they did add skins to a single player game, it's not even like you could show off these skins because it's a single player game. And a lot of gaming revolves around playing with your friends as well, so I think for the longevity, single player games just aren't the best. Well, most anyway. Games like Skyrim, GTA 5, and Just Cause 2 are some of my personal all-time favourite games, and I've spent a shit ton of time in them. But I still think sequels are very important for the gaming industry, and comparing how I feel now to when I started making this video, I thought if you just kept working on one game and updating it over time that would work out the best, but now that I've looked at it, I think single player games are still very important in a lot of situations, like single player games. And I didn't even mention, if we didn't have sequels, how would games go back to different eras, such as Battlefield going back to World War I or II? I think it's just better to have one game suited at one time, instead of if someone wants to go and play a World War II COD or Battlefield, and then there's futuristic weapons and everything thrown into the mix. A lot of gamers play to feel immersed into the game, and if they want to feel like they're in World War II, then people running around with laser weapons and shit would probably throw a lot of people off. But that still doesn't mean a new Call of Duty should be released every year, and even with Battlefield. Yeah, it's every 2 years, which is definitely better than COD's every 1 year, but I still think that they could maybe wait a bit longer, like 3 or possibly even 4 years, just depending on if the game's actually good. Like BF1 was not the most popular Battlefield, but then again, Digital Extremes built Warframe from nothing to something spectacular. The last thing I want to look at is graphics. How would the game's graphics improve if new titles weren't released? Now, you do realize you can improve the game's graphics with an update, right? Okay, now I don't want to just say something that I don't know 100% is fact, but to my knowledge, you can do this. I tried doing a bit of research on it, but the only thing that was coming up was updating your drivers. But I don't see why it can't be done. Shit, I'm pretty sure Warframe has better graphics now than when it started. As well, mods. So many games' graphics on the PC can be improved simply by the use of mods. And modding a game is pretty much just the same as updating a game. Kinda. Oh, well, why can't this be done on console then? Because consoles are limited to the physical hardware within your console and can't be improved just by a simple update or download. It astonishes me the amount of people actually believe you can just download better specs. Oh, you want 900 gigabytes of RAM? No problem. Oh, here's a link to download a free GTX 1080. That's not the way it works, and some people sincerely believe this. That's like saying, oh, hey, my car's driving a little slower today. Well, I'll just download a new engine. But I don't really blame them since they just don't know any better about computers and hardware because they're not really interested in that stuff. Like if I was talking to a mechanic about cars, I would probably say something stupid that would probably make him laugh or look at me in disgust because I don't really know anything about cars. So to conclude, I personally love the idea of supporting a game for the long term as I thrive off of progression to keep my attention in a game. But I still think releasing new titles is very important as it is what builds the gaming community. But at the same time, I really think it just depends on the game.